Hey guys, today I am presenting to you a process-driven software that I believe will be very helpful to your organization. Software is written mostly for parts engineers, manufacturing engineers, and component engineers, and as well as design engineers and purchasing department. Let's go to we'll go through all the slides that we have here. A triple E part management system. That's what a, the part system that we need to manage in order to to have all the benefits of these tools. Everything is at creativitysoft.com if you want to explore this website. And if you want to send email, you can send email to info@creativitysoft.com, but mostly support@creativitysoft.com. Let's move on. Objectives. The objective, we need to create an environment where engineers in general, parts and reliability engineers in particular, can exchange ideas, discuss issues, and lessons learned. So we want to create that environment where you can go and perform all the tasks you perform every day, but at the same time you can exchange with your counterparts in other companies or in other divisions that you friends that you have about part issues. We want to provide tools to engineers and component engineers so that you can be successful. We want to design a triple E part system that is easy to manage and make information available to engineering, quality, manufacturing, purchasing groups. Create a process-driven software to manage triple E part from inception to obsolescence and beyond. Because once the part is created, you have to manage it and you have to take it when it even after the part is obsolete, you still have to manage it because you may have it in your design. So after obsolescence, that doesn't mean you're done. So we have to go to all these issues. Define and implement a process for each phase of a part through its life cycles, from inception to obsolescence. There is a process. We have a process. The part will be created, the part will be changed, either any kind of change, manufacturing change or a process change or a die shrink, for example. A manufacturer is purchased by another manufacturer, so all those changes the part may go through its life cycle. We have to manage that, and there is a process for that as well. Create an all-in-one system that allows component and parts engineers to spend more time doing problem solving than research for information, because it's a lot of time we spend 2, 3, 4 days finding information. But if you had a system in place to do the right thing for you, that's something you can find. That's something you could be able to resolve in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and that's what this tool is for, to support you. The last objective is to make sure parts component engineers have everything at their fingertips, so they can respond quickly to customer inquiries. So, as it says, having to spend a lot of time to research for information or to go and investigate things, you could have that information because as part of the process, everything is done as your daily activities, but also everything is documented. So when the time comes, you look for information, it's there available for you. Everything about this part is packaged for you in one place. You just go and get it. So let's move on. A triple E parts management process. Parts are selected to be used in programs that are intended for commercial, military, and space environments. In these tutorials and in this software can absorb any environment. It doesn't matter whether your application is commercial, space, or military. This software can take care of it. but we'll talk mostly about space applications, because space applications have most of the, the harshest situation where all the customer requirements have to be met, either at your manufacturing level, at purchasing the purchasing the parts for the product itself, and all the requirements you have to flow down to the suppliers. So we go with, if it works for space, it will work for anything else. So that's why we will go, when we talk, we'll talk mostly about space applications. But the same principle can be used for any of the three environments where the end product is going to be used. Even in the commercial world, we want to make sure quality parts are used in program to ensure units are shipped on time and are well integrated in the intended application. And also, even in the commercial world, you don't want to have returns. So you build your product, even if it's 2 years. In the commercial world, we just go and buy the part, right? You just go and buy the part, and to a specification specification that were established by the supplier itself. You buy to their catalog, right? But even at in that situation, the supplier wants to make sure that the parts they use in their products have of good quality from the right supplier and manufactured in the production line that is made for this quality product. Because you don't want returns, you don't want RMAs. If you build 20,000 units and then you have one failure, and questions are going to start coming to you, and you have to answer, it's a lot of time to perform failure analysis, to corrective action, and potentially returns of all those parts and put them in the field. So you want to avoid that. So that's why we want to make sure, even in the commercial world, that we take care of making sure parts are of quality. Parts requirements are derived from the customer requirements for the end product. So I receive a request, and the customer will send you their requirements for the product itself. But there is always a section that tells you how to select a part, what kind of screening should be performed on the part, what kind of potentially what quality level those parts should be set at, and then the ultimate goal is to make sure the parts used in the end product are compliant with the requirements called out during the part selection process. During the part selection process, the parts were selected to meet the customer requirements in the first place. So there is a process for that. That's when you introduce a new part. But before we introduce a new part, we need to make sure that we don't have a part that can meet those requirements in the first place. That's the task of the design engineer and the component engineer, to make sure that we search a system, that you have a part search system. You can call it whatever you want. You have a part search system that can allow you to find existing parts that can meet certain requirements. Once the requirement has been established for this program, you want to make sure those parts are already there to be used, because reusing those parts, make sure that you don't create new parts. By creating new parts, you introduce new issues because of potential requalification, potential failure during qualification, getting part from a supplier that is not a supplier that you should be doing business with, potentially having failure during manufacturing, potentially having failure during screening. So all this stuff can be avoided by not creating a new part in the first place, if you can. So that's why you have to have a system in place to make sure before you introduce a new part, you search your system. Okay, so we will go through that because there is a system, there is a process. It's part of the new part introduction process. But there should be also a separate process to ensure when the part is received from the supplier, all those parts are compliant with the requirements. Don't forget those requirements came directly from the customer during a compliance matrix. The customer sent you their requirements. You said, okay, I am good with those requirements. Now you need to flow down those requirements to your suppliers, right? And when those parts come back to you, you need to make sure that those parts meet the requirements that you called out. That's another process, and that's the most important process, and that's why we spend a lot of time in that process, because a lot of things can happen from the time you purchase, you create your SCD, or you buy the QPL part, and or whatever, how you're going to purchase this part. These two processes mentioned above are critical in any part management system, because if you cannot validate your parts and then you're going to put it in the customer program, it's a huge risk that you take. Risk on you, risk on the you take a huge risk, because that can taking that risk, you can have failure during integration of those parts in the units that you need to ship to the customer. So we spend a lot of time in new part introduction, and also in supplier part validation. We spent a lot of time on that. Next screen. When parts are on order, it's important that purchasing and component engineering work together to monitor the supplier's activities, especially in high-well, and not necessarily in commercial world, but in high-well and space level. You need to pay attention. Purchasing, it's an important organization. It's an important organization that parts engineers, even design engineers, should work with very closely, because they are the one placing the orders, but you want to make sure the parts that are purchased are the one that you intended to purchase in the first place. So component engineering and component engineering and purchasing must work very closely with the supplier. So I see a good team that I see in any part management system, especially in space product. Component engineering, quality, purchasing, and the supplier. Supplier is your best friend, because if the supplier it doesn't meet your requirements, it doesn't matter what you do. You can have the best product in the world, you can have the best system, MRP system in the world, but if the parts that are going to be put in your units, they are not to the requirements, then you fail. You fail. And when you fail, everybody blame component engineering. It doesn't matter what happened, component engineering failed to provide the right part to put in the units. Everybody is looking at you to be successful. You need to be successful for the company to be successful. That's how important component engineering is. Purchasing is responsible to place an order that was dictated, that was supervised, that was by component engineering. Component engineering works with the supplier to discuss details of the specifications. What do we expect? Because those parts we place orders, sometimes it's 30, 40 weeks lead time. So you want to make sure that you have general discussion. I discuss with my suppliers almost every day. You discuss with them because you want to make sure 3 months from now, when you receive those parts, you put them in your units. There is no issue. Because if there is an issue, you lose like you need another 6 months to requalify a new part. For supplier to place order for parts, they need to make your part, and then to receive this part, to put in the units, to ship it to the customer. Sometimes it's another year that you lose. So making that team, I spend some time here because I want to make sure that that team, that engineering, component engineering, purchasing, supplier, that's the team that you need on any part management system. It's important that a good relationship be established and maintained between engineering, component engineering, purchasing, and suppliers to ensure successful part manufacturing, screening, and delivery. A good projection tool can be used to predict when all parts will be delivered for manufacturing use. What I mean by that is that at the time you place an order, program office is already working, putting schedule in place. But all schedule is based on when parts are going to be received to ship, to build, to manufacture the end product so it can be shipped to the customer. So we have, as part of this system, we have a projection tool. As soon as the order is placed, this tool should be able to predict when we expect those parts to be received. So the program office can schedule accordingly. So when some parts, depending on what kind of parts you're purchasing, depending on what kind of screening is required, there will be different projection because there will be more activities to be. So let's say that you purchase a connector, or let's say that you purchase a mimic. Let's take a connector, for example. The supplier will have to buy the insulator, the body, the contact. Platers have to plate, and we have to manufacture. And the part is manufactured. Now you have to test to the requirements. Most of the time in SCD, we're talking about space product, most of the time we purchase to an SCD. If we cannot get a QPL part, you have to create an SCD to purchase this part. Then what you do, those are the tests the supplier will perform on the part. Either they will perform it, or if you have the capability, sometimes you perform it yourself. If you want to meet schedule. But let's say that the same connector will need to go out for DPA. Because let's say the customer calls for DPA on all connectors. Okay? And let's say some section of that of those tests, the manufacturer cannot perform because they don't have the capabilities. You are responsible to perform them. So that's I'm talking about the projection tool, but at the same time, I'm trying to let you know that all this stuff you are responsible for. You are responsible to make sure that the supplier perform those tests, and if the supplier cannot perform those tests, you are responsible to perform them. So the component engineering group is managing all this stuff. It's not purchasing. managing the screening. Purchasing is purchasing the part. They expect component engineering to work with with the supplier to make sure that all those tests are performed. Because when those parts come here, the component engineering will be the one to say, okay, those parts were tested to the requirements and they are okay, or they are not okay. So your projection tool can help you in finding out exactly what is going to be performed, where it's going to be performed, when they are going to be completed. So that's and then that projection tool can be shared with program office and other and the manufacturing group, production group, to make sure that they know exactly when those parts can be expected to be cleared. When we say clear, we will go through that during the part supplier data review process. Next, so when during let's talk about part involvement phases. EEE part goes through several phases. From the time you receive the order to the time you ship the product, and after. That's why I said after and beyond shipping, beyond shipment of the product. So you get the program, you start design and development. During design and development, that's when parts are selected, right? We go into everywhere. Component engineering must be actively involved. Even before the program, before you receive the program, there must have been a request for quote. There must have been a customer requirements document that you have to review. And before you get the program, you have to review those documents to say, yes, I can do it. That's what we call, in space system, we call it compliance metrics. We provide the compliance metrics to the customer for each paragraph of their document to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I will not. I cannot do this, but I will follow. Then you need to make sure that it's done. If you cannot do it, but you say you're going to do it, then you need to make sure that you provide you put system in place to make sure it's performed. So I don't go before compliance metrics, but I start, okay, we get the program. You get the program. You supposed to you start design and development. During design and development, that's when you have part selection. Part selection is in accordance with customer requirements. Even though you have your standard part selection system, but the customer requirements takes precedence automatically. The customer document takes precedence over your standard plan that you have. Then the new part introduction process kicks in. So that's so we go into all the phases. Okay, during the part selection, there is a process we call new part introduction. During the new part introduction, don't forget that I talked about it in the previous slide. During the new part introduction process, we make sure there is no this part that I need for this program doesn't already exist in my system. That's so important. Otherwise, you will create duplication in your system. That's the poor management system that you are introducing a new part that you already have. Okay, so we'll detail all the steps and the guidance and the guidelines that we need on new part introduction when we get to that process, because each process is developed by itself and is integrated in the part management system that we have, the software itself. after new part introduction, we create SCD. You create SCD if the part is not available to be purchased as a QPL part. If it's a commercial part, then you will just buy the commercial part, but you need to make sure that this commercial part is already in your system as you want it to come here to be received, because purchasing is going to purchase the part. Purchasing doesn't care about, as long as you give them the right part number to order, that's what they are going to order. So it's your responsibility as parts engineer, as design engineer, to make sure that those parts numbers that you want, the part specification that you call out, those specifications are reflected in the part number that you're trying to order. If you don't have if it's not commercial, if it's military, most of the time you will buy a QPL part, QPL, or let's call it military. If they are not available, if the part is not available as QPL, then you have to create an SCD, because somehow the supplier needs to know what you are expecting from them. The way you explain to them the way they know what to expect is via the SCD. Now, after the SCD is created, we can start the ordering phase. But during the process, part ordering phase can be started. But at the same time, you provide a part list, a part and material list to the customer. Right? The customer will approve or reject your part list. After part list, you get approval. Now you start ordering. But because sometimes the program is so dense, and it's so you cannot wait for customer approval, but you have to take that risk of ordering part before approval of your part list and material list. Most of the time, several organizations use a process for parts approval. Some of them call them PAD, which is part approval document, or NASPA. They use NASPA as well as non-standard part approval request. That's what NASPA stands for. Because if you don't need a PAD or a NASPA, if you buy a QPL part, they consider those parts as being standard. Any part that is purchased via an SCD is considered to be a non-standard parts. Okay, so I went to that. We'll go to that later on further and during other tutorial. Now we order parts. During parts ordering, SCD has to be reviewed. It's a good habit to discuss your SCD with your supplier, because it's much easier for the supplier to be aware of what you expect from them before they sign off. So a good habit, please make sure that when you're placing the order, before you place the order, you send a draft of your SCD to your supplier for their review and feedback. Most of those feedbacks are very important, because don't send a requirement to a cost supplier when they cannot meet it. It's a waste of your time, waste of their time as well. Why don't you discuss it with them? It's during the design phase that's the time to discuss those things with the supplier. And once the supplier accepts your requirements, then they are on the hook. Now you place the order, right? And the order is placed. Now supplier management. Don't forget what I said before in the previous slide or previous two slides. Relationship with your supplier is key. Don't forget that, because you will see during the full part management process how important your supplier is in that process. Because when something happens to your part, where do you go? You go to your supplier. So it's important to cultivate that relationship. You need somebody at engineering level, somebody at quality level. If you have those two, then if there is anything else, they can tell you exactly where to go to find the information that you need. Sometimes it's a data package. Okay. Sometimes it's mostly it's quality to help you with that. It's a specification issue. It's a design issue. It's design engineering. So put in mind that you need to have design engineering and quality. Some process engineering will help as well. But if you have those two, that's a good start. At the supplier, you need to have that relationship. And later on, I will tell you exactly why I am encouraging you to cultivate that relationship with your suppliers. Okay, so supplier management, you manage this part order from start to completion. And then now, you receive those parts. Receiving inspection, they check for damage on the part, they check for stuff, but sometimes there could be some kind of instructions, they call them SIR in some SIR, special inspection instruction requests, that stuff that need to be done by receiving inspection. But at the end of the day, who is going to review and approve the data is either design engineering or component engineering. And most of the time, 90% of the time, it will be component engineering reviewing the data. And if there is some information to share, if there is an issue that needs to be raised, and you get the component engineering group will get a design engineering group involved most of the time. Most of the time, it's compliance. Okay, you receive the part. This is the SCDs. Those are the requirements. Does the data that you receive, does it meet the requirements? That's what you map. You map the data that you receive with the requirements. So that means you need some technical ability, some leadership. You can see that how leadership is important already from all this stuff, because nobody's going to do them for you. Component engineering, you're going to do that. So you need to have that leadership to approach people, to create relationship. Don't burn bridges. All right. Now, data review, approve, or reject. If it's rejected, then we have a problem. A lot of time we have to go back to the supplier. But we'll discuss that later. And then after data review, everything is good, then we go to manufacturing. If it's bad, that's more problem that we'll have to discuss. We'll discuss using part at risk as well. That's something we'll have to discuss later. Okay, manufacturing, and then shipping. Okay, so you go from sometimes it's 12 months, sometimes it's 16 months, this process to go from there, from receiving the program to shipping the product. Sometimes it's a year, 2 years. So, but after then, what will happen? You ship the product. 10 years after you ship the product, you may still be receiving requests, I will say inquiries. So it's important that you continue to monitor. If after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you may still be receiving inquiries about those parts, then you need to have a system in place. So when the customer asks you for a question, or let's say there is an alert, a general alert, GIDEP alert, customer alert, supplier alert about a part, you need to have documentation. You need to have a system in place that help you find information right away. That's the difference between 2 days of work versus 5 minutes of work. Having a system. Okay. Now let's move on. So, as in the previous, I told you about all the phases a part will go, and all the activities, component engineering, design engineering, purchasing are involved in the process in part activities. Now, let's look at all the processes and the tools that are integrated into this software to help you manage your parts. You remember I talk about new part introduction, but before new part introduction, part search. There must be a part search tool to make sure a part that you're trying to introduce is not a duplicate of something you already have. If the part doesn't exist, then the new part introduction will kick in. So we have a process, we have a search system that is very powerful, that will let you know whether a part that you're looking for, either by description or by manufacturer name or by manufacturer part number or whatever search combination you need to you may want to have. You are looking for a part, you need to be able to find it. If the part doesn't exist, new part introduction starts. So we will discuss each of these tools, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Some of them are combined, but some of them are independent. They are independent because they are so important, like obsolescence management, like part change management, new part introduction, incoming supplier data review, parts alert. Parts alert include GIDEP, customer inquiries, lessons learned from a customer or from your activities, supplier supplier alerts like PCN. So everything is there. Supplier management is integrated between new part introduction and incoming supplier data review, because a lot of activities happen in between placing an order, monitoring the order, a projection of part completion when the part is going to be completed. All this stuff is part of the supplier management, because you need to make sure that you work with your supplier daily, weekly, conference call, special call, friendship. Those are established. And then all those tools are there, I believe. And we'll talk about also proactive and reactive DMSMS, which is also part obsolescence management, I would say, but they are separate. We will discuss them separately because everything here by themselves, they are a tool. But you don't need to go one place to get some information, another place to get an information, another place. Everything here is integrated in one system, and that gives you powerful, that's so powerful for your company, that's so efficient for your company, that makes component engineering and purchasing and quality and manufacturing and configuration management and program office so efficient, because they get what they need when they need it. And once you start doing that, you can start measuring the process. measurement is the key. You need to measure the effectiveness of your process. So we will go through all these tools one at a time, one tool at a time. The training in a series of tutorials will be presenting each of these tools, features and capabilities. We'll tackle each subject within the application itself so users can see and perform these tasks themselves. So we'll perform training. We will train you on how to use the system and how to integrate it. Don't forget that I told you this, we have a version that is a network version. So that means this software can be, it's an application. It's not a website. If it's a website, then but we have, it's an application. That means it can be on your network server, and then you can use it for yourself, or it can be on your intranet. Because it's an application, you have a personal web server, that's your intranet, that's within your organization only, or within your, your corporate. That means each division, if you have several divisions, they can still, you can still integrate it for all the divisions. And also, it's on the web, World Wide Web. So, anywhere, anytime. So, this application can be used anywhere. The breakdown of each of these tools will show how these processes, when put together, constitute a complete system that provides part engineers everything they need to support their daily activity. Because what happened most of the time is that we don't have a system. We do this, we do that. But you have to create a system. Component engineering, for example, can create a process that, if it's the way you do business, when you do business with quality, they know how business is done. When you do business with receiving inspection, when they receive the part, they know they need to submit it. So you will never, when something happens, you will never doubt where to find it. If it's not, if the part hasn't been submitted, that means don't go and ask company engineering because the part hasn't been received. Let's go back to the supplier, or check with purchasing. Where are we? Or check your email, because this part should have been here, because based on the projection tool, this part should have been here, and then we still don't have it. So you see how everything, but that means you have a system in place that does that for you. In the first tutorial, we'll go to the user interfaces. There, we'll go to a new part introduction process, and then show you how it works. We have navigation tools to go from one screen to another, and also we have an action to menus. So we have menus, and we have menus that does navigation, go from one screen to another. We have action menu that will perform a task for you in terms of, okay, I want to save this data. I want to do some kind of search, or I want to insert insert my data sheet, for example, for a specific part, or my data. So everything is there. When we have enough large audience, we will hold real-time training sessions, so users can ask questions in real time, and then we can respond. Users will be able to log in and perform the same task at the same time as we go to different screens. This is about part management. You manage it, you have full control over it. Otherwise, you lose it. If you are not organized, if you don't have the discipline to organize how you do business, then you will not be successful. Take my word for it. Beside that, we also have a reliability prediction system. that can allow you that will allow you to perform your reliability prediction from your part list. So everything can be integrated together. The ECO process must be integrated with your parts, because part will go to ECO. A non-conformance system should be integrated. So because whenever there is an issue with a part, I will go and check whether I have been having issues with that supplier. Non-conformance material system can tell me that. So we in the future we'll have non-compliance system, ECO system, corrective action system, part management system, reliability prediction system, everything together. That will help your organization. So thank you for watching. Now how to connect. If you want to connect to the software, you go to www.creativitysoft.com, go to site navigation, and then click on part management module. From the part management module, you can go into this. There's a signature. You will see several tabs. There is one called signature. Click on that tab and then click on register, because you register once. Once you register, you enter your username, your password that you want to use, and then there are some requirements on password for security purpose. And we have an organization that is established already. That is what we call a training organization. You can be part of the organization, so you can do any action in that tool. You can perform any action that any other user will have performed. And if you want also to be an administrator, if you intend to be an administrator, maybe we will make you an administrator, because administrators have so many different privileges that normal users don't have. Because if you want to upload something, if you want to do certain tasks, permission especially, you are an administrator, you are the one to give permission to other members of your organization. You manage everything in your own organization. There are several screens that are reserved for administrators only. So if you believe that you should have that administrator permission, please let us know. Send us an email, support@creativitysoft.com, or send us a feedback. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you listening, and then you see the slides, and then please go and check it out, and give me some feedback. If you have some feedback, please send me an email. Thank you. Bye.